If you're seeing this message right now, something has shifted in your reality. This isn't coincidence. This isn't random chance. You've just crossed a threshold that most people will never even recognize exists. The very act of watching this video, of being drawn to these words, means your consciousness has begun to operate at a frequency that transcends ordinary perception. Welcome to Quantum Horison, where we explore the hidden mechanics of reality itself. If this is your first time here, you're about to discover something that will fundamentally change how you see yourself and the world around you. Hit that subscribe button right now, because what we're diving into today isn't just information, it's activation. Here's what nobody tells you about consciousness. Most people think it's something that happens inside your head, trapped behind your eyes, limited to the boundaries of your skull. But that's not consciousness. That's just thinking. Real consciousness, quantum consciousness, operates outside the constraints of space and time. It's the field that connects everything, the invisible web that links every thought, every intention, every possibility across infinite dimensions. And here's the part that will blow your mind. You don't develop quantum consciousness. You remember it. You've always had it. But somewhere along the way, you were taught to forget. You were conditioned to believe that you're separate, isolated, powerless, that your thoughts don't matter, that your awareness is just a byproduct of brain chemistry. But right now, as you're processing these words, something is stirring, a recognition, a remembering. Because the truth is, consciousness isn't produced by your brain. Your brain is produced by consciousness. Your entire reality, everything you see, touch, feel, and experience is consciousness expressing itself through infinite forms. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had a moment where you just knew something was going to happen before it did? Where you thought of someone and they called you minutes later? Where you walked into a room and felt the energy shift? Where you sensed someone watching you from behind? These aren't coincidences. These are glimpses of your quantum consciousness breaking through the noise of ordinary awareness. Most people dismiss these experiences. They call them luck, intuition, or weird coincidences. But what if I told you these moments are actually your natural state trying to emerge? What if the real question isn't how these things happen, but why they don't happen more often? The answer lies in something science is just beginning to understand. Your consciousness isn't confined to your body. It extends far beyond the physical boundaries you've been taught to accept. Quantum physics has shown us that particles can be entangled across vast distances, instantly affecting each other regardless of space and time. Well, consciousness works the same way. When you activate quantum consciousness, you become entangled with the field of infinite possibility. But here's where it gets really interesting. The moment you recognize this, the moment you truly understand that your awareness is connected to everything, reality begins to respond differently. Not because you're manipulating it from the outside, but because you're finally operating from the inside. You're no longer a separate observer looking at reality. You become the consciousness through which reality observes itself. This is why you're here right now. Something in you is ready to remember, ready to step out of the illusion of separation and into the truth of connection. But I want you to understand something crucial. This isn't about gaining new powers or abilities. This isn't about becoming something you're not. This is about stripping away the layers of conditioning that have been hiding what you've always been. Think about this for a moment. Every great breakthrough in human history, every leap in understanding, every moment of genius or inspiration came from someone who managed to tap into this field. They didn't create something from nothing. They tuned into what was already there. They aligned with the frequency where that information, that insight, that innovation already existed. The mystics knew this. The ancient wisdom traditions understood this. Indigenous cultures never forgot this. But somewhere in our rush toward technological advancement, we lost touch with the most advanced technology of all, the technology of consciousness itself. But you're different. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Something inside you has been calling you toward this understanding. Maybe it started as a whisper, a subtle sense that there's more to reality than what you've been taught. Maybe it's been growing stronger, becoming impossible to ignore. The synchronicities getting more obvious, the intuitive hits becoming more frequent, the feeling that you're being guided by something beyond your ordinary understanding. Here's what's happening. Your consciousness is expanding beyond the frequency of ordinary awareness. You're beginning to operate from what we call the quantum field. This is the space where all possibilities exist simultaneously, where time becomes fluid, where distance becomes irrelevant, where the boundaries between self and universe dissolve. And the beautiful thing is, once this process begins, it accelerates. Each moment of expanded awareness makes the next one more likely. Each recognition of your true nature makes it easier to operate from that truth. It's like tuning a radio. Once you find the frequency, the signal becomes clearer and stronger. But here's what most people don't understand about this process. It's not about trying to force expanded states of consciousness. It's not about straining to see auras or have mystical experiences. Those things might happen, but they're not the goal. The goal is integration. The goal is learning to operate from quantum consciousness in every moment, in every interaction, in every choice you make. When you're truly operating from quantum consciousness, life becomes effortless in a way that's hard to describe. Not because everything becomes easy, but because you're no longer fighting against the flow of reality. You're moving with it. You're dancing with it. You become a conscious participant in the unfolding of existence itself. This is what the great teachers throughout history were pointing toward. This is what the mystics were describing. This is what science is now beginning to validate. Consciousness isn't a product of matter. Matter is a product of consciousness. And when you truly understand this, when you feel it in your bones, everything changes. Your relationships change because you're no longer relating from separation, but from connection. Your work changes because you're no longer pushing against life, but allowing life to move through you. Your entire experience of reality shifts because you're no longer observing from outside, but participating from within. But let me be clear about something. This isn't a destination you reach. This is a way of being you remember. And like any remembering, it happens in layers. Each day, each moment, each breath becomes an opportunity to choose consciousness over unconsciousness, to choose connection over separation, to choose presence over distraction. Some of you watching this are already feeling it. A shift in your chest, a tingling in your hands, a sense of recognition that goes beyond words. Others might be feeling resistance, skepticism, the voice that says, "This is too good to be true." Both responses are perfectly normal. Both are part of the process. Drop a comment below and let me know what you're experiencing right now as you watch this. Are you feeling the shift? Are you sensing the activation? Or are you noticing resistance? Share your experience because your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to recognize their own awakening. The truth is, quantum consciousness isn't something you achieve. It's something you are. And every moment you spend remembering this truth, reality becomes more fluid, more responsive, more alive. You're not becoming powerful. You're remembering that you already are. The question isn't whether you believe this or not. The question is whether you're ready to live it. Because belief is still separation. Belief implies doubt on the other side. But knowing, direct knowing, that's where quantum consciousness operates. And you can't fake knowing. You can't pretend your way into it. You can't think your way there. Here's the part that changes everything. Most people approach consciousness like they're trying to solve a puzzle from the outside. They meditate to get somewhere. They practice techniques to achieve states. They study concepts to understand reality. But quantum consciousness doesn't work that way. You don't reach it, you drop into it. Think about falling asleep. You can't force yourself to sleep by trying harder. The more effort you apply, the more awake you become. Sleep happens when you stop trying, when you let go, when you surrender to the natural process. Quantum consciousness is similar. It emerges not from effort, but from release. This is why so many spiritual seekers get stuck. They turn awakening into another project, another goal to achieve. They create elaborate practices and complex philosophies, missing the simple truth that consciousness is already fully present. It's not hiding. It's not waiting for you to become worthy. It's the very awareness through which you're experiencing this moment right now. But here's where it gets profound. When you stop seeking consciousness and start being it, reality begins to reorganize itself around your presence. Not because you're manipulating anything, but because you're finally aligned with how reality actually functions. You're no longer swimming against the current of existence. Let me share something that might sound impossible. Right now, as you're watching this, your consciousness is simultaneously existing in multiple dimensions. Part of you is here, processing these words, but part of you is also connected to every person who has ever watched this video, every person who will watch it, every possibility this message might create. Time isn't linear in quantum consciousness. It's more like an ocean where all moments exist simultaneously. Some of you are feeling this right now, a sense of expansion, a recognition that your awareness extends far beyond what you thought possible. Others might be experiencing what feels like resistance, but is actually your old conditioning trying to maintain control. Both are part of the activation process. Here's what nobody tells you about this transition. It's not always comfortable. When you begin operating from quantum consciousness, you start seeing through illusions you didn't even know you were living in. Relationships that seemed solid might reveal themselves as patterns of mutual unconsciousness. Work that felt meaningful might suddenly feel empty. Beliefs you held sacred might crumble under the light of direct knowing. This isn't destruction, this is liberation. But liberation can feel terrifying to the part of you that's been defined by limitations. The ego, the constructed self, the identity you've been carrying like armor, it doesn't want to dissolve. It will create every possible story to keep you small, safe, and separate. You might hear voices saying you're being unrealistic, that this is just wishful thinking, that you need to be practical. You might feel pulled back toward familiar patterns of worry, control, and struggle. This is normal. This is expected. This is part of the process. But here's what you need to understand. Those voices aren't you. They're echoes of conditioning, programs running on autopilot, patterns inherited from a world that forgot its own nature. Your true voice, the voice of quantum consciousness, doesn't argue with these patterns. It simply observes them with compassion and continues expanding. The shift happens in layers. First, you might notice moments of expanded awareness, brief glimpses of connection, fleeting experiences of unity. Then these moments begin to last longer, becoming your baseline rather than peak experiences. Eventually, quantum consciousness becomes your natural operating system, and the old patterns of separation feel foreign, like clothes that no longer fit. At Quantum Horison, we understand this journey because we've walked it ourselves. Every video, every insight, every activation we share comes from direct experience, not theoretical knowledge. We're not teaching you about consciousness. We're creating spaces for consciousness to remember itself through you. The beautiful thing about quantum consciousness is that it's contagious. When you operate from this level of awareness, you become a catalyst for awakening in others. Not because you're trying to convince anyone of anything, but because consciousness recognizes itself. People sense something different about you, even if they can't name it. Your presence becomes an invitation for others to remember their own nature. This is happening right now in the comments section of this channel. People are sharing experiences, recognizing patterns, supporting each other's awakening. It's becoming a field of consciousness where individual barriers dissolve and collective remembering accelerates. If you haven't joined this conversation yet, scroll down and add your voice. Share what's shifting for you. Your words might be the catalyst someone else needs. But remember, you're not responsible for anyone else's awakening. You can't force consciousness on someone who isn't ready. Your only job is to embody what you're remembering, to live from the truth you're discovering, to be the change you want to see in the world. Here's something that might surprise you. The more you align with quantum consciousness, the simpler life becomes. Not easier necessarily, but simpler. The complexity, the drama, the endless mental loops that used to consume your energy, they begin to dissolve. You start operating from a place of clarity rather than confusion, trust rather than fear, flow rather than force. Decisions become obvious because you're not making them from the limited perspective of the ego. You're making them from the expanded awareness of quantum consciousness, where you can see patterns and possibilities invisible to ordinary perception. Opportunities appear that you couldn't have imagined. Synchronicities become so common, they stop surprising you. People often ask how to know if they're really operating from quantum consciousness or just imagining it. Here's the test. Are you becoming more loving or more judgmental, more peaceful or more anxious, more connected or more isolated? Quantum consciousness always moves you toward unity, compassion, and peace. If your spiritual practices are making you feel special, separate, or superior, you're probably operating from ego disguised as spirituality. The ego loves spiritual concepts because it can turn them into another identity to defend. It will gladly become a spiritual seeker, a conscious being, an awakened soul, as long as it gets to remain separate and special. But quantum consciousness dissolves all identities, including spiritual ones. It leaves you naked of concepts, empty of positions, free from the need to be anything other than what you are. This might sound like loss, but it's actually the greatest freedom imaginable. When you're no longer defending an identity, you can respond to each moment freshly, authentically, spontaneously. You become like water, taking the shape of whatever container you find yourself in, while never losing your essential nature. And here's the miracle. When you stop trying to be someone and start being no one, you become everyone. When you stop defending your separateness and embrace your emptiness, you discover you're actually everything. This is the paradox of quantum consciousness. The more you disappear as a separate self, the more you appear as universal awareness. Right now, as these words land in your awareness, notice what's happening in your body. Are you contracting or expanding? Are you resisting or receiving? Are you analyzing or absorbing? Your response in this moment is showing you exactly where you are in this process of remembering. If you're feeling resistance right now, that's actually a sign that something profound is happening. Resistance isn't your enemy. It's the friction between your old programming and your emerging truth. It's the signal that you're approaching something real, something that threatens the comfortable prison of familiar limitations. Most people run from this resistance. They retreat back into the safety of unconscious patterns, the predictable loops of worry and control. But you're different. You're here because some part of you is ready to lean into the discomfort, to trust the process even when you can't see where it's leading. Here's what's happening right now in your nervous system. As quantum consciousness begins to emerge, your body starts remembering frequencies it hasn't felt since childhood. Before you learned to doubt your intuition, before you were taught that your sensitivity was weakness, before you accepted that separation was normal. Some of you might be feeling waves of emotion right now. Tears might be coming up without explanation. Your heart might be opening in ways that feel both beautiful and terrifying. Others might be experiencing physical sensations, tingling, warmth, a sense of expansion that seems to extend beyond your skin. These aren't side effects. These are signs of remembering. Your body is the antenna for quantum consciousness. It's the receiver that picks up frequencies invisible to the thinking mind. When you learn to trust these subtle signals, when you start honoring the wisdom of your physical experience, you begin operating from an intelligence that transcends logic. But here's where most people get confused. They think quantum consciousness means becoming psychic or developing supernatural abilities. They expect to start reading minds or predicting the future. But those phenomena, while possible, are just byproducts. The real shift is much more subtle and infinitely more profound. You start knowing things without learning them. Solutions appear in your awareness without thinking them through. The right words come out of your mouth before you plan them. You find yourself in the right place at the right time so often it stops feeling like coincidence. This isn't magic. This is your natural state of being finally emerging from underneath layers of conditioning. Drop a comment below and share what you're noticing right now. Are you feeling the expansion? Are you sensing the resistance? Are patterns in your life suddenly making sense in new ways? Your experience matters because consciousness awakens through community, through shared recognition of what's always been true. The activation has begun. By watching this video, by allowing these frequencies to move through your awareness, you've stepped across a threshold that changes everything. You're no longer the same consciousness that pressed play. You've remembered something that was always true, but temporarily forgotten. This isn't the end of your journey into quantum consciousness. It's the beginning. Stay connected with Quantum Horison as we continue exploring these expanded realities together. Your awakening is just getting started.